So here we are at the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum for day 3 of AusArmourFest. Just catching up and doing the rounds on some more vehicles which are in the collection for static display. So yesterday we looked at some light tanks from the early period of the war that were manufactured by the US, and this is a US medium tank from the earlier period of the war, so the M4 Sherman A1 variant. You previously might have seen my films that I took of the Firefly that's in the collection. I mentioned that Firefly was built on the M4A1 chassis. That A4 chassis uses similar suspension setup and similar drive setup to this vehicle here. However, as I pointed out when we were talking about the Firefly, that hull used a lot of welding of plates and only used castings for the transmission housings, etc., etc. This earlier version, the M4A1, you can see here that the vast majority of the hull, actually all of the hull, is cast in a single piece, and you can also see that it's the transmission housing, so that for servicing of the final drive, is bolted on. So fairly phenomenal that this was done as a one-piece casting. So getting over here, there's no riveting that connects the hull together, which is quite phenomenal. Quite a phenomenal piece of engineering. As an engineer, I can sit here and tell you that this is no small feat to try and do that in one piece, and requires specialised skills, which is why in later iterations the manufacturer of the Sherman was upgraded to use more welding techniques, because welding requires you to be able to cut flat plates and do a bit of welding. You don't need such an extensive workshop to be able to cast parts as large as this hull. This particular version of the Sherman has the taller deck and fits the Continental radial engine into the hull. You can see the cast turret and the early war 75mm guns. This is the first time the Americans were able to fit their 75mm dual-purpose gun into a turret. Previously, they'd and you can see it down here with the Grant and the Lee tank. That those guns had to be fitted into sponsons on the side because the turrets were not capable of taking such a large gun. So this is the first time you saw that 75mm, which was for the time of the war quite a capable gun, and saw service all the way up until the end of the war. In the Sherman, it was eventually replaced by 76mm, which is a longer barrel and had a better anti-armour performance. This is a good dual-purpose gun, capable of providing support to infantry through its exceptional high explosive round, as well as capable of engaging tanks, though not as potent as some of the guns that were appearing on German tanks at the time. Their equivalent 75mm long barrel L48s, and also certainly not as potent as the Firefly. So again, this is the M4A1, early iteration of the Sherman. Great to have it here in the collection, and really good to see it here. Unfortunately, it's not a runner. We haven't sent it out this weekend, unlike the Firefly, but just one of the many versions of the Sherman that were built by US during World War II.